it's Two Geek Soup. We're back for a special Comic-Con edition. I'm John Vinolas, and with me today is my good friend Arron Welty.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there in podcast land?
All right, so we are just gonna jump right into Comic-Con stuff. But first, Arron, I'm disappointed in you.
Oh, why is that?
You apparently, okay, so were you aware of this graphic novel called Heaven's War?
No, I don't know if I've ever heard of it.
Oh, okay, good. Then I'm not disappointed in you.
Okay.
I saw it on the Popcorn Cathedral discussion group, and it made me, something about the way that went down made me think that you knew about it. This is a graphic novel that basically is the Inklings versus Aleister Crowley.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to read this.
So I was going to be mad that you knew about that and hadn't told me about it yet.
No, I didn't know about it, but I feel like I need to read this.
Fantastic. Then I get to tell you about it. I like the next day I went and bought a copy on eBay, and I am waiting for it to arrive. I'm really excited about it. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some future date, but it looks amazing.
Okay, so you haven't read it yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, we're gonna.
It's on its way.
That's awesome. We're gonna need to talk about that.
Yeah, it was actually. I think it was done. I think it was published by Image.
Oh my gosh!
So it's like a real graphic novel. It's not even like some indie, like just Christian thing. It was actually published by a real comics company.
Wow, and what makes me even more interested in reading this is that when you look at some of the Inklings' history, particularly related to the friendship between C.S. Lewis and I think Charles Williams, who wrote a book called Place of the Lion that influenced some of Lewis in terms of creating Aslan, there's a connection to where both Lewis and Williams, I think that they knew about Crowley and they were familiar with him, and Williams was a little more towards that bent in some of the supernatural fiction that he wrote, and that was one of the things I think that made Tolkien a little uncomfortable with the friendship that had developed between the two of them, that kind of took Lewis a little bit away from the closeness of Tolkien's orbit, and then things changed a little bit after. Yep, go ahead.
As I understand it, actually some of that is included in like the story of this graphic novel.
Oh, this is going to be great. I'm really
I'm pretty
excited now.
Yeah, I got a copy for like $4 on eBay, so probably just go ahead and buy it.
I'm going to hunt it down.
And then we can talk about it sometime soon.
Awesome.
All right. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Wow, so many cool things coming out of Comic-Con, and it's not even over yet. We're only like halfway into it. Let's talk. Okay, so let's get like the weird and ugly bad news out of the way first. James Gunn. So, like, I did read some of the. Okay, so what's going on is that the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2, James Gunn, has been dismissed from his directorial duties on Guardians Volume 3 because somebody dug up some tweets that he had posted between 7 and 10 years ago. Like, they came out sort of in over a span of time. That, and in fairness, it's really ugly.
I would
agree
with that.
Like, it's very, very yucky, and if you haven't already seen them, don't go looking for it because it's gross and highly inappropriate. So these came out, and he was fired because Disney is like, oh no, we can't stand for this. and so yeah, that's what's going on. He's not going to be directing Guardians 3 anymore, and the future of that project is unconfirmed of the time
I
of this
was
recording.
as shocked as you.
So what are your thoughts here, Aaron?
So John, I was as shocked as you. I came across it yesterday, and I remember getting a hold of you and saying, "Hey, you heard about this?" And you did some reading, and I did some reading, and I don't fault Disney for the decision that they made because of the fact that they have this very family-friendly image. But when you dig into kind of the how of how everything went down, and there seems to be a little bit of a kind of a political divide bent to the situation that can easily be overlooked, I think. Where, because you have, and we talked a little bit about this before in past episodes, just the nature of DC and Hollywood and kind of the deep political divisions that exist in the country right now, there's certain people who can now claim that because James Gunn is not necessarily on their team or part of their tribe politically, they can now claim, look who we brought down, who is not on our team, and therefore because he is not on our team is our enemy.
Yeah.
Over the years, as my dad and I have talked about kind of this spirit that exists in the country, we call it the spirit of UMass, and it stands for UMOS, as in U of M and Ohio State. And the idea behind it is it's all about my team and my tribe, no matter what, at all costs, total and complete victory with no other considerations. And the rivalry that exists is going to be deep and long and ugly. And so I feel like, again, even though I agree with Disney's decision based on what was uncovered, that still there's a whole nother piece to this that is politically driven.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. And man, it's so unfortunate. Like that somebody looking to score political points would go out and look for a way to hurt somebody else for something that they did, which on the face of it is not great, but also I think pretty clearly on the face of it, having actually seen this material, like it's very obvious to me that this was meant as some kind of a joke. Like it's not a good one, and it's a fairly ugly one, but still is intended as a joke and not something in earnest. Yeah, that's yucky.
I would very much agree that it's yucky, but it's unfortunately it's where we are as a culture, as kind of a political system and society. Right now I was in Michigan for a couple of weeks prior to our conversation today, and someone asked me, who knows that I live in Washington and I used to work in politics, somebody asked me if I thought that there was any hope of kind of healing some of the kind of divisions and deep kind of rancorous partisanship that exists in the system right now. And I looked at that person and honestly said, I don't know. Because right now it runs deep and wide.
Yeah, and honestly, it's something that in my own small way, I'm trying to as I look for new folks to talk to in between our the Marvel movies that are coming out now. I'm sort of casting a pretty wide net and looking for folks who politically and philosophically I would strongly disagree with, but that doesn't mean that we can't have good conversations about interests that we do have in common. And I'm not going to shun anyone on a personal level just because I have a difference of opinion with them politically or theologically or philosophically.
And I think that's a great position for you to have. And I'm really glad that that's part of these discussions that are, part of Two Geek Soup. I think it's a healthy thing. At times it may be a hard thing, but I think it's ultimately a healthy thing that makes us a little more rounded as people, and also increases our capacity for empathy, which in a society like the one that we live in right now, it's all the more important to be able to be empathetic and be able to understand someone else's viewpoint, even if you don't agree. And that's supposed to be a two-way street, but it's a lot harder for it to be a two-way street these days.
Yeah. Okay, so one last piece of something that I think we both are not really excited by, and then we'll get into stuff that's more fun. How about that Titans trailer?
The trailer that I wish I kind of hadn't seen, that one?
Isn't that terrible? Like, okay, so, and I commented on the Facebook post that I saw with it. It astounds me. I'm totally bowled over that DC has not yet learned the lesson that dark and gritty does not equal good.
Right. I mean, dark and gritty sometimes has its place, and there's, darkness and grit in, say, the Nolan Batman trilogy, but it makes complete sense, and it just seems that
right.
DC, at least when it comes to live action, wants to double down on that in a weird way, not just with movies, but with TV. And it's like, well, why don't you find with Titans, why don't you find a balance between, say, what you do with Arrow and what you do with Flash? Because that's kind of what Titans needs to be. And
well, see, and for my money, Titans could double down on the fun factor of Flash, because Titans, I think, should be a much more light-hearted thing. Like, and obviously there are serious aspects of drama to the stories. There obviously a lot of stuff with Raven is pretty, can be a little bit grim, but I think that overall the tone of a Titans franchise ought to be a lot of fun.
I would agree with that, and a lot of the other Titans related material that we've seen, say the last 10 or 15 years for the small screen, has been a little more oriented towards that way. And even when you watch the two Titans animated films that have come out the last few years as part of the the DC animated universe, they're very serious, and at moments they're pretty dark, but they still find time to create these moments where the characters can breathe and be a little more lighthearted. And based on that trailer that we saw the last couple of days, there is absolutely none of that looks to be ahead for this, live action project, and I just don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it's, again, for me, it just boggles the mind that the guys over there at DC, the people making these decisions, continue to think, oh, we need to be, again, just dark and gritty. Like, it seems like it worked for the Nolan Batman films, and since it worked so well there,
right,
they're like, oh, that means that everything needs to be like this and it'll continue to work. But it hasn't been working for, the better part of a decade at this point. And it just makes me wonder, when are they gonna wise up? I mean, I guess, I don't know, like, Batman v Superman made money, right? I think. And did Justice League make money?
I think that it made money ultimately because it made somewhere